Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness unto light, lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Namaste and good evening, everybody. Pranams to Radiant Mataji and special gratitude to her and her wonderful team, which puts together many of you are almost, I think, almost large numbers of you are members of the team, which puts together these wonderful retreats and workshops. I always enjoy my time here. This retreat is, as she said on the Bhagavad Gita, today is more of an intro, a segue into it. And it's especially meant for volunteers, for members of the team. So I thought it would be a small chat, informal. This is a very formal event. You can turn down the volume a little bit, maybe. It's a little bit of echo, maybe. I don't know. Okay. Living spirituality. Yes. Thank you. Why I thought about the subject is we're going to discuss a lot of Vedanta tomorrow, but often I hear this complaint or just an observation. Swami, what you're saying, I agree with it, I'm on board with it, I understand it. But now what? What do I do? Or in another way, it's put this way, that yes, it's great, but it's kind of theoretical, kind of philosophical. It's a very clever philosophy, very, very sophisticated. It's great to hear all this stuff, but it doesn't seem very practical. It's great as a theory, doesn't seem practical. Or now, what do I do about it? These questions, all of these point to something where this Vedantic teaching is not feeling alive for us, not feeling available for us, not feeling nourishing and real and useful and practical for us. That's something we must address before we go into it. There are different approaches to spirituality. And Vedanta, in the sense of non-dual Vedanta, which I'm going to talk about tomorrow especially, today partially, it is the most alive kind of spirituality. Why it is so, I'll tell you a little bit. We'll talk about it a little bit and how we can make it alive for ourselves. But why it is the most vibrant, alive thing in our lives that is possible to imagine is because of this. There are different kinds of spirituality. There is a belief-based spirituality, by the way, which are all genuine and actual. It works for many people, but it's based on belief. In Hinduism, in Vedanta itself, it could be called the bhakti approach. That God exists, God is listening to our prayers, and God will help us. How do I know? If you ask a question, an epistemological question, how do I know all these things? Well, because you've been told that. The books say so, the teachers say so, the tradition says so. So we believe in it. That kind of spirituality, it starts with and is, its foundation is, for a long time, it is belief. We don't actually see or hear anything. We don't actually directly experience God like Sri Ramakrishna. So for him, it's not a belief. For him, the Divine Mother was a living spirituality, was a living presence all the time. Think of another person who would go into Samadhi 10 times a day. But for the rest of us, we take it on belief. And it works. For those who can, it works. But it's still at a distance. In Sanskrit, there is a word paroksha. There are two words, pratyaksha and paroksha. Pratyaksha means that which is directly presented to our senses. So right now you're seeing me, that's pratyaksha. You're hearing what I'm saying, that's pratyaksha. But God, the poet says, God's in his heaven and all's right with the world. I think Robert Browning probably. Well, God's in his heaven, That's paroksha. Paroksha in the sense beyond the range of our senses. It's something that we can believe in. And see, the difference is this. For example, you are seeing what's going on here. I'm standing in front of you and speaking. And there are no two ways about it. If our sense organs are functioning well, if I am awake and thinking reasonably, we will all come to this common agreement. Yes, the Swami is standing in front and speaking. But about the existence of God, person may believe in it, person may disbelieve in it, person may be indifferent, sort of on the fence about it. Person may be a theist, person may be an atheist, person may be an agnostic, about the same belief in God. Why? Why is this possible? You can't say that I see the Swami in front of me, but I don't believe he is in front of me. You can't say that. It's, I mean, you know that the Swami is standing in front of you. But why can't we say, I know that God exists? Because it's based on belief. And for a long time, it must be so. So this is one kind of approach to spirituality. Again, remember, this is not a critique. I am trying to distinguish non-dual spirituality from the other types. This kind of belief-based spirituality is in fact very common and the most valid. It works. If one can believe in God and hold on to God with faith, over time, it will become a reality. It becomes a living spirituality. Another way is, the problem with this approach, initially at least for a long time, it's open to skepticism. Not only that, even if you or I am not a skeptic, life throws so many challenges at us that we feel, does God really exist? Does God hear our prayers? I went through such a horrible time, or I'm facing so much loss and grief and pain. God doesn't seem to be listening to me. Devotees, in this model of spirituality, the belief-based model of spirituality, you will see often genuine devotees will feel periodically a sense of doubt. Doubt comes. When you're looking at me right now, at no point will a doubt come that I'm standing in front of you. And common sense militates against that. We know this guy is in front of us. But God, doubt can come. Not just to the skeptic, but to an actual devotee, person who believes in God. I remember reading the diaries of Mother Teresa of Calcutta in the last years of her life. So imagine a devoted life throughout her life. A Catholic nun. The last years of her life, she says, I pray and pray and pray into the darkness and no reply comes. So this feeling of being in the darkness and there's no response from the divine after a lifetime of effort, no, it's possible. It's possible. And on the other hand, there are actual atheist skeptics. They always have been in every civilization, in every period of those who say, I don't believe in God. And in this day and age, their number is much more. There are many more who would say that this is all a matter of belief and superstition. I'm listening to a debate, and then nowadays a very well-known atheist, very popular. Richard Dawkins is there. Christopher Hitchens passed away. He was a very well-known atheist and a great debater. Sam Harris is there, and so many others, and a few others. Daniel Dennett passed away recently. Now, I was listening to this debate between an atheist and I think a priest or a scholar of some religion, proponent of some religion. And the atheist said to the religious teacher, look, all the gods that the ancient Greeks and the Romans believed in. Do you believe in ancient Egyptians, Greeks and Romans believed in? Do you believe in them? No. You consider them to be false gods? Yes. So out of 100 gods presented to you, 99 you consider to be false. The only difference between me and you is that one more you consider to be false, then you will be on my side. Just that one more God you believe in. Yeah. 99 you have disbelieved in. One more, what is the problem? So this is the issue. If it's very difficult to argue against somebody who takes his stand on empirical evidence, something that we all see and hear, the world that we inhabit, plus bolstered by science now. And on the other hand, you are arguing for something which is a matter of belief. So that too, the playing field is not level. It's much easier to defeat belief-based claims on the grounds of experience and logic. This is an issue with the belief-based approach to spirituality. As against this comes a powerful reply from religion. It actually came from Hinduism. In the 19th century, Vivekananda, late 19th century, when he comes here, he says, God is not a matter of belief. God is realization, a matter of realization. It's not just a matter of faith. Not just because I believe in God, I must be able to see God. If God exists, I should be able to see God. If I have an immortal soul, I should be able to feel it. Look at the language. This is empirical language. Experience. See. Feel. Not just believe. That's what made Narendranath Datta into Vivekananda. In late 19th century Calcutta, he went around asking various religious teachers, Sir, have you seen God? Not that, do you believe in God? Why do you believe in God? What are the arguments for the existence of God? What are the arguments against the existence? No. Have you seen God? Empirical question. This is the question of the 19th century, 20th century, and in our century also. Empirical question, because in this age we want experience. And then the same Vivekananda, when he comes here to the United States, the first book he taught and translated was Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Raja Yoga. We call it Raja Yoga, it's a classic. And it's an empirical approach to religion, that it is possible to experience God. You sit in this way, you withdraw your mind in this way, you breathe in this way, then go through these meditation exercises. And if you fulfill those conditions, practice that sufficiently well, you will have certain extraordinary experiences which will prove to you the truth of the claims of religion. God exists, you will see, and you will say, yes, I see. I am the soul, I am not body and mind, I am pure consciousness. You will experience it, see for yourself. And claim, yes, I am speaking on the basis of experience, not on the basis of just believing in it. And he says that is religion. Religion is realization, not just believing in a book. But notice, what is the basis of this realization? It is this extraordinary experience you will get in samadhi through these techniques of meditation, through these practices. It is a powerful reply to the skeptic. It is a powerful reply to the atheist or the agnostic that God is as much a matter of experience as is the world or the claims of science. Vivekananda, in fact, went to the extent of saying, I am fully convinced that the claims of religion must be put to the same test as are the claims of science, and same rigorous test. And if some of the beliefs we have to give up, the sooner the better, because what is not true can in the long run, it cannot be good also. If it's not true, just because it's comforting we believe it, we should be able to give it up. We should believe in what is proved to be true. But these are matters of a mystical experience, extraordinary experience, born of yogic samadhi. Again, valid path. And that was the answer necessary. But that also can be critiqued. That also can be critiqued and criticized. How? A modern neuroscientist might say that, I don't doubt that you are experiencing the light of limitless consciousness or something like that, or you are seeing God or hearing the voice of God. You think you are. But actually what is happening is there is a clot in your brain, tumor, that is pressing against some nerve centers and that is generating these experiences. See, if I do some operation or give you some medicines, it will go away. All your God visions will go away. So it is a pathology. It's a disease. It's a problem. You are getting the experiences, no doubt, but experience is being generated by the brain. Or, if you are in New York particularly, around this time, many people are seeing God outside the ashram, especially after the legalization of weed. So they are all, it's there. They are high, not spiritually high maybe, but high on some kind of drugs. In the beginning of the hippie generation in 1970s, 60s and early 70s, Swami Ashokananda, who was in the Vedanta Society of Northern California, he said about Berkeley, where it all began. So he said, "Blessed Berkeley, an avatar on each street corner." All on high. But quite apart from neurological problems, quite apart from um, drugs or whatever it is. What was the general reaction? What has been the general reaction of people to mystics throughout the ages? Not just now. The first reaction of ordinary people to mystics in every culture, including India. First reaction of people around when the mystic claims to have had this experience, genuine experience maybe. The first reaction of people is he's crazy. Mad, crazy, hallucination. Always. Sri Ramakrishna, the mad priest of Dakshineshwar. That's what they used to call him. Many people who are around, they thought he had become mad. So, insanity, drugs, neuroscientific problem, and neurological problem, whatever it is. So, it can be critiqued. It can be critiqued. It can be critiqued is because it's a special experience. It's not a common experience. You are seeing the Swami speaking, he or she is seeing the Swami speaking, nobody has any problem with it because it's a shared experience and it fits in with our worldview. But if I see the Swami speaking, but I see Ma Kali also, it's Diwali, she has manifested. Now, you'll be fortunate, but a lot of folks here would have a little question mark. What's he on? What's he smoking? What are you smoking? So, on the plane today, I and practice. Or not here, but there, in heaven. Or one can say that God is and you and God are separate. There is a reality called God, which is not you, not those people, not this world, it's something separate. So clearly you are not experiencing God now. When you are experiencing seeing other people, when you're seeing this world, inhabiting this life, this is not God, God is something separate. There's a different thing called God. Vedanta says just the opposite. This Brahman, which we will talk about tomorrow, Brahman, Atman, pure consciousness, pure being, we'll discuss it tomorrow, but it is now and it is all the time. It's eternal. When is Brahman? Not after death. All the time. Meaning it's now. Where is Brahman? Everywhere. Everywhere. Not just in heaven, but everywhere. And if it's everywhere, it must be here also. Because if I keep getting distracted, everybody gets distracted. I remember reading a life of the Buddha, in which the Buddha would speak, and the kings, noblemen would sometimes come to hear, and the monks would be sitting, bhikshus would be sitting, and the visitors would sit all around them. And one person remarked, quite apart from whatever the Buddha said, he said, I was most impressed to see in that forest glade, Buddha sitting and speaking, surrounded by literally hundreds of people. The utter stillness in which they sat with rapt attention. Now, I am not the Buddha, so I can't demand that of you, but a little bit of stillness, a little bit of attention is necessary. After that also, half of it will be gone, whatever I say. But no stillness, no attention, a little bit of the flickering attention, 90% will be gone. That's a guarantee. So, what Vedanta is saying, this Brahman, this Atman, what we are trying to talk about is present all the time, therefore it's present now, right now. It's present everywhere, therefore it's present here. And it's present in everything, whatever you experience. And more especially, it's you. So, all the time, therefore now, everywhere, therefore here, and it is you yourself. How can it not be living? See, what we call life, it is like we're sitting here, so many living people, and we are living our lives. And it's centered on you, on I, me, myself, you, yourself. And Vedanta says the attention should go there. At no point should this inquiry be lifeless. It is always living. The moment this inquiry, the Vedantic practice, the Vedantic inquiry moves from living to theoretical, we have made a mistake. We need to stop and bear down there, double down there, and look closely. You know what it's like? This is an example which I like very much. A monk gave this example. He says, when you ask a child, what's a nose? The child will not say it is that organ through which respiration is carried on, or it is the olfactory organ. No, the child will say this. No, directly. Philosophers call it ostensive definition, pointing out the thing. What's a table? Instead of defining a table, point it out. In Vedanta, you need to be like that. No. Whatever is being pointed out, tomorrow, whatever we will do, all of it directly relates to something within our experience. So what we need to do is, like the nose, whatever is said, field, knower of the field, the body, the prana, the mind, point to it. Look at it for it. There are things like the mind within ourselves which you cannot point out with your finger or catch hold of like the nose. But we are aware of it all the time. So mind, this is what it thoughts, feelings, memories. All right, I get it. It's like the nose. It's present right now. It's not theory. Once I was doing this Vedantic analysis in Calcutta in an ashram. 700, 800 people were present. After in the Q&A, one disgruntled lady came up and said, she rushed to the first class question. Swami, all this is good, but it's so much theory. I said, madam, which part of it did you think was theory? None of it from beginning to end is theory. At one point, we will feel this is not a living fact for me. This seems theoretical. Good. If all of it seemed a living fact, we would all be enlightened fully. It's all Brahman for us. But at one point, we will think it will slide from what we know, what seems obvious, to a little further than that. No, that's theoretical. That's where we need to bear down and begin to see that it's actually real. So it's a living real. What I'm trying to say is, Vedanta is talking about something present here now. Couple of points here, Vedanta philosophy. See, there is these two words, Drishtaphala, Adrishtaphala. This is an old Vedanta, a Vedic concept. So, Vedanta, is part of the Vedic tradition. And prior to Vedanta, prior to the Upanishads, the Vedas were full of rituals. So you have fire sacrifices, yajna, and you make offerings to the gods, the Vedic gods, to the accompaniment of chants. And if the ritual is perfectly done, properly done, we would expect the results of that. And the results were of two kinds. So this is old Karma Kanda theology. It's the theology of the ritualistic portion of the Vedas. Two kinds of results were there. Drishta, Adrishta. Drishta means seen, here and now. Adrishta, unseen, future, post-mortem. So, there were results like after death you will go to heaven. Perform these rituals now and you generate so much good karma, merit, that this will give rise to heaven for us after death. And they solidly believed in it. So it was a matter of belief, and you would get the result not now. You won't see it. Adrishta means unseen. Unseen means not seen before death, after death. Suppose I don't get the result, hard luck. You are not going to catch me, the performer of the rituals, because I won't be available at that time. So no, but they had solid belief in this. They genuinely believed in the rituals, the efficacy of the rituals. So that's one kind of result, unseen, afterwards. And notice, on this model, many of the dualistic religions which came in later on, after the Vedic times, they operate on this model. Believe in God, worship God, perform the puja, do this and that. After death, you will go to the abode of the Lord. Could be the Christian heaven, could be the Islamic heaven, could be the Vaishnava Vaikuntha, the Devi Loka or the Kailasha, whichever. After death, it's an unseen result of your practices here and now. The other kind of result was called Drishtaphala. Drishtaphala means there would be 5 rituals which would be performed for getting results here and now. For example, let it rain. I heard you've been having lots of rains. I wonder if somebody was doing the fire ritual here. In Dallas, you've been having lots of rains recently. Let it rain. Why would they be interested in that? Remember, it was an agrarian society. thousands of years ago on the Indo-Gangetic plains. So rains were very important. I think it was, who was it? A British Indologist who said, when the monsoons fail, India starves and dreams of nirvana. Why are the Indians so spiritual, so much philosophy and spirituality? It's because the monsoons are so unpredictable. So you do these rituals and you expect there to be rain. Now, if there is rain, whether there will be rain or there will not be rain, it is drishta, seen, because you observe it. You expect the rains to come soon. If it doesn't come, fail. If it comes, succeeded. So, result in hand, which you see in this life, drishtapala. Vedanta operates on this drishtapala. What Vedanta is promising is liberation here and now, freedom from suffering, attainment of fulfillment, the peace and the strength to go through life with serenity, with fulfillment. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, what is the result of all of this? He says, Yang labdvana chaparam labam manyate tato adhikam. Having attained which, when you become enlightened, when you realize that you are Brahman, you will find there is no higher gain in life. I have attained to that beyond which nothing more remains to be attained. And yasmin sthito dukkhena gurunapi na vichalyate. Centered in which, that I am Brahman, in that realization, centered in which the heaviest of sorrows cannot shake us. And my point here is, the claim is this is a drishta phala, a result which is in your hand, which you will see in this lifetime itself. It is meant to be experienced here, not hereafter. That's why the point is, it's a living spirituality. That which promises something after death may be true, but it's not a fact right now. Whereas Vedanta promises it here and now, in this lifetime itself. Another subtler point. So this is one distinction I wanted to draw, Drishtapala and Drishtapala. Another subtler point which makes Vedanta, the non-dual kind, a living spirituality. Let's see, I'll put it this way, 2 steps. One is, what is Vedanta? It's not a belief system. It's not even a speculative system of philosophy. Many people make a mistake because it is a part of philosophy. If you open a philosophy, Indian philosophy textbook, you will have a chapter on Advaita Vedanta, non-dual Vedanta. It's true. But very precisely, it is not that. What it is what is called in Sanskrit pramana. Pramana means a source of knowledge. Pramana. So, my eyes are seeing you. This is a pramana, source of knowledge, perceptual knowledge. I know you are all sitting here. How do I know that? I don't say I believe you are all here. I know it. How do I know it? The question is, how do I know it? And my answer will be, I see it. I see you all. This I see you all, this is called an epistemic justification for a knowledge claim. It's a fancy way of saying, I see people. I see you all. So, the source of knowledge is eyes. But there can be other sources of knowledge. Our sense organs are sources of knowledge. Our scientific instruments are sources of knowledge. Our scientific process through inference based on data is a source of knowledge. Vedanta is also a source of knowledge. This must be distinguished from belief. Belief is where one may believe, one may not believe, one may believe differently. You may be a Hindu, you may be a Christian, you may be a Muslim, if you be a believing but differently. Or you may be an atheist. You not believe. It is possible in belief, but for knowledge, you can't be otherwise. If your eyes are working, you, a Hindu, the Muslim, the atheist, Christian, all will see the same thing here. So knowledge is not dependent on our personal whims, on our beliefs, on our feelings, on our moods, on our preferences. No. Knowledge, if it works well, Brahman, source of knowledge, if it works well, will be indubitable. You can't fiddle with it. In Vedanta, it is called Vastu Tantra, depending on reality. Not Purusha Tantra, depending on human fallibility, opinion, views. No. Mind is alert. Eyes are open, light is there, you will get the same result, you will see. Vedanta is a praman, is a source of knowledge about the nature of ourselves. Who am I? It's not a belief system. It's not open to speculation. It is supposed to, if it works well, you will realize you are Brahman without anybody for whom the pramana works will realize that they are Brahman. There is no question of belief or preference or desire here. It will work. Now, how? I'm going a little deeper into this. Vedanta is books, Upanishads, words. How this pramana works is interesting. This is a distinction between the other kinds of texts, which in various religions, you talk about God, heaven, good, bad, all of that. They are belief systems. And the texts perform, they give you some information. These words in this sacred scriptures, they work in two ways. One is the general way in which they tell you. In the Vedas, there are so many words which say, do this ritual and after death you will go to heaven. And people may believe it. And then they may do it. And they may get the result or not, we don't know. But there are these Vedantic texts. Tattvamasi, you are that. Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. And all the Upanishads will explain how so. How am I that? Those words are different. How are they different? I'm making a subtle distinction between the texts which stand on belief and promise something and the texts which are Vedantic texts. What is the difference between? Because they're both texts. Both are books. Why would I claim the Vedantic texts are texts of a living spirituality more than others? Because of this. One way words can function is give us information about something which is not directly present here. So I can describe to you what New York is like. And then you get information about New York. But to make it, Central Park, but to make it a living reality, you would now have to travel to Central Park and see it with your own eyes. Then the words will be fulfilled. But before that, words are second-hand information. And the words of this, many words function like this. And in our day-to-day life, and the words of the sacred scriptures also functions like this. God exists, heaven exists, after death you will go to heaven, things like that. There's another kind of words which do not just give information and then await some kind of action on your part to fulfill it. Rather, they remove ignorance about an already existing experience. And repeat, the second kind of words are very interesting. Suppose I say, what's your name? What's your name?
Jyotindra.
Jyotindra. Now, somebody introduces me. This is Jyotindra. All right, these are words. This is Jyotindra. Did I now get a new experience or new knowledge? I did not get a new experience because I was looking at Jyotindra anyway. Now, when somebody introduced me, this is Jyotindra. I said, oh, I see. Now I know something about what I was already experiencing. It's in knowledge about an existing fact already within our experience. If he was not here, if he was elsewhere, then I would ask you, go and call Jyotindra, and I would have to describe me, such and such gentleman. You would go and look for the person, then call him, and then the words would be fulfilled. So there are words which demand action from us. Do something, wait for it, something will happen, and then only you will experience it. So words which will lead to experience. Other words which show us what we are already experiencing. So when it says, this is Jyotindra, it was already a living reality for me. Now I know, oh, so this is it. So Vedantic words are pramana in this sense that they are giving us information, that introducing us. Just as an introduction to Jyotindra, already experienced Jyotindra. But we are introduced to him. We are being introduced to our real nature, that you are Atman, pure consciousness, Brahman. When we become enlightened, we will realize not that, oh, now I'm seeing something extraordinary, this beautiful light or whatever it is. No. I will say, I always knew this, or it was always available to me. How come I never saw it? How come I never got it? The well-known example of the 10th man. The person, 10 friends crossed a river, an old story. And then they thought that, has somebody drowned? Or did we all cross? And then started counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Where's the 10th man? Oh my God, the 10th man has drowned. Obviously, each one, they counted, they forgot to count themselves. And they were confused. Oh, they started crying. Our friend, the 10th man, is gone, dead. Paroksha, beyond our senses. Then this wise man comes and says, why are you crying? Because our friend is dead. How do you know your friend is dead? Well, there were 10 of us. Now there are only 9. Man must have realized, he must have counted and seen. He realized what happened. He says, well, the 10th person is there. Just like saying Brahman or Atman is there. This where? But where? I'll show you. Count. And then they count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I told you. This man takes this counter's hand and turns it around and says, 10. You are the 10th. Dashamas Tvamasi. You are the 10th. Now those words reveal to that man the existence of the 10th person. Did it give him a new experience or removed a confusion, a delusion, and ignorance? It removed his ignorance about the 10th person. It's not that a new 10th person was now bought and introduced. I was always there. I'm the counter. I was always there. When counting the other 9, I was there. But I didn't see it. So the words, how did the words function? They did not say the 10th person is there, go to the other side of the river, his body has been found, it's been washed up, luckily he is alive, he's been revived. Not like that. It says you count, you are the 10th. It removed the confusion about what was really going on, about the existence. I am the 10th person. Not a new experience, but a new knowledge. And it removed, like a veil of ignorance was covering the existence of the 10th person. That veil was removed by that knowledge, by those words, you are the 10th. Vedanta is also words, but it is a pramana, source of knowledge in the sense this way. When it works well, when it works correctly, the way it's supposed to work, it will reveal to us, I know I am here. Who doubts their own existence? That nobody even questions. Nobody gives any particular attention to it. But I will discover I am limitless existence, consciousness, space. I am Brahman, and that will solve my problems. In Krishna's words, having attained which, nothing greater remains to be attained. Having being centered in which, even the heaviest sorrows cannot shake you. That will become a living fact for us. Where? Here. When? Now. In what? In myself. Here, now, myself, these are not remote things. Paroksha. It is direct. Pratyaksha means seen through the senses. This is more than pratyaksha. It is a word called aparoksha. Immediately, directly perceived. My own immediately, directly perceived existence is revealed to be the infinite Brahman. It's a subtle point and a very radical claim. It is claiming that you are experiencing. I want to realize, I want to get the experience that I am Brahman. I am infinite consciousness. Vedanta is actually saying you're already experiencing. Just like that person was already experiencing the 10th person, he's already experiencing. It's already a living reality. The ultimate realization. And the non-dual Brahman is already a living reality. Right now. All the time. Whether you like it or not. Whether you believe in it or not. Whether you see it or not. Whether you're enlightened or unenlightened. You are that Brahman. As one sadhu said to me in the Himalayas. He said, Tum jano ya na jano, tum mano ya na mano, tum hi Ram. Whether you know it or not, whether you believe it or accept it or not, you can reject all this. You are Ram. You are that. You are the God you are seeking. In this sense. Tomorrow we'll start the process. How do you remove this ignorance? By self-inquiry. What is this process of self-inquiry? We'll go into it tomorrow. It has to be done carefully. But remember, the takeaways from this, to make it a living inquiry, one must have, this is nose. When I say body, one must be able to say, okay, he means this. Always ask yourself, theory or fact? Fact. Living or dead spirituality? Living. Prana, mind. We will go step by step, subtler and subtler. At each point, we must ask this question to ourselves, is it still a fact or is it becoming theoretical? All right. And my claim is till the very end, when you realize you are Brahman, it's a fact, right now. In that sense, it's a living spirituality. I want to give enough time for Q&A, but now I want to switch gears. Different kind of living spirituality. All of this, we are talking a lot of big things. Atman, Brahman, Pramana, Drishtapala, all of that. But the problem with this, all this, even if all this is true and correct, it is true, but problem still remains. Even if I am pure consciousness, awareness itself, it's still a little abstract. It's what we mean by living is this living person, is us, the way we experience life. Can we have living spirituality in that sense? Something graspable, something real, something which not only satisfies our intellect. Okay, we have got the idea. The Swami said there is a kind of spirituality which is belief-based, kind of spirituality which is an extraordinary experience-based. But now Vedanta is based on inquiry about our present experience. And therefore it is a living spirituality. That it is not about something distant in time and space and object. It is here, it is now, it is us. So it's a living, yes, good. And then Drishtapala, Pramana, which is introducing us to something already existing, like Jyotindra right here. All these points are taken, but aren't they intellectual? Somebody said to me, Swami, you are all head. Heart. That's an important point. Living for us means it comes from the heart. It should be able to move us, nourish us, here and inspire us, strengthen us. I remember, so what is living spirituality? I'm changing tracks radically now. All these points, these are important, the foundation for tomorrow's talk. But little I'll add here, just for today. I remember when I joined the Ramakrishna order, about 30 years ago, on my first day, the very moment I joined, at that time I was very fortunate to be then president of the order, and also I had received mantra diksha from, I was initiated by him, revered Swami Bhuteshanandaji Maharaj. He was president of the order and he was present in the ashram where I joined. Quite an amazing coincidence or blessing, whatever you call it. I see it as a blessing. I didn't know that in the ashram where I was going to join and be a monk, I'd just gone there to become a monk. I'd finished my studies. I was a youngster. I went there and they said, the president of the order is present here. He's visiting this ashram. And you're very fortunate. So in the evening, when the monks gathered around the president of the order, I was presented. This is the newest recruit. He has just come to become a monk. And I mean, for me, they were all revered Swamijis, and the head of the order himself, my own guru, is present right in front. Great blessing. But of course, I was also very self-conscious and almost paralyzed. And they pushed me forward. And they said, bow down to him. So I was like a parrot, bowed down. And they said, Swami, this young boy has come to be a monk, please bless him. Somebody, another of the monks, well, surrounded by these monks behind me. They're all prompting me to do the right etiquette. And one whispered to me, ask him to bless you that you can be a good monk. So like a parrot, I said, please bless me that I can be a good monk. Then Swami Bhuteshanji said, and he would speak in this very slow drawl. He was very slow in everything. His walk, his talk, gestures. He reminds me of, I read about Mark Twain. When somebody told him to hurry up, Mark Twain said, I have only two speeds, this and slower. So Maharaj was very steady and very slow. He said, haven't you heard the story of the fossil, the parable of the fossil? And I said, please bless me that I may be a good monk. The parable of the fossil is something that Sri Ramakrishna talked about. They have taken him to a museum, what is now the Asiatic Society in Calcutta. They've taken him there and shown him many things in the museum, including fossils. And Sri Ramakrishna, of course, would use everything to explain Vedanta, to explain spirituality. So he said, look at the fossil. It was an animal, but in the company of stones. Animal died and pressed in stones. It's become like a stone. like on the on the stone. That's where you find fossils. Become like a stone. In the same way, staying in the company of holy, in the holy company, you will also become spiritual. So this is Sri Ramakrishna's parable of the fossil. The Swami said to me, haven't you heard of the parable of the fossil? Staying with monks, you will become sadhuদের সঙ্গে থাকতে থাকতে সাধুই হবে. Staying with the sadhus, holy men, you will become a holy person yourself. That I have taken as a great blessing from that time till now. See, Vivekananda said, religion can be given. I am firmly convinced of it. As you can hand over a flower to somebody, religion can be given. I remember this Swami. I heard a story. Our Swami was in France. I heard it from devotees there. So this was a long time ago, decades ago. A man came to the Swami. Apparently, he was a man of very few words, the Swami. This man came to the Swami with grief in the heart, a lot of sorrow. And he sat and he spoke about, poured his heart out to the Swami. Swami just sat there and listened quietly. At the end, he leaned over with a smile and gave him a flower. A small gesture, nothing, didn't say anything. And that man remembers it till today. He's just overwhelmed when he thinks about it. So it's not just he gave a flower. He gave something there which gave solace to that person. Anyway, religion is something that can be given. Just as infectious diseases can be caught just like that, good things also can be caught. Spirituality is also infectious. So, living spirituality means contact with the living practitioners, those who are spiritually advanced, enlightened, who is or who is not, we cannot say, but spiritually advanced, certainly. How do you know? In the company of those in whose company our minds turn to God. It's a good test. In their company, you feel elevated, you feel cleansed, you feel purified, and you feel easily attracted to God. That is living spirituality. One way is Atman, Brahman, pure consciousness, which we will talk about a lot tomorrow, all day long. But the other way is also this. Yes, I am pure consciousness. But it's not something that can be objectified. The reason why the 10th man could not find himself was all the other 9 are objects. You can see them. You can count them. But I am not an object to myself. That's why it's so easy to miss I, me, myself. And that Vedanta says that's what we are doing at a very deep level. Our true nature, what we truly are, we are missing it continuously. One reason is that it's not an object. It's utterly non-object. Vedanta has lots of what's called chutzpah. In science, modern common sense and science, object is said to be true. When you say truth, another name for truth is objective. Object. So true. In Vedanta, it's the opposite. Is it an object? Yes, then it's false. You might think, why? Why is an object false? The logic is pretty simple and startling. An object is always an object to a subject. It's an appearance in consciousness. And appearances in consciousness are what we call false. Like a dream. It is something that appears to you in consciousness, never by itself. The philosopher Arindam Chakravarti defined an object as an object is anything that objects to your consciousness. Think about it this way. What is an object? Anything that we can see, hear, smell, taste, touch. Even think. Think of your consciousness, consciousness as a spreading field of light. When it runs up against objects, I see, it's like objected, it stopped consciousness here, and this has appeared. Sound, smell, taste, thought, pleasure, pain, these are objects because your consciousness as if has run up against them and they are objected to your consciousness. They are not transparent to your consciousness. They're as if opaque and you notice them. Anyway, so in Vedanta is often reverse of it. Be that as it may, it's all incredibly subtle, very cool and very clever, but it's not solid. Object is at least you can grab the object. Now, this is the great advantage of the avatar. One powerful form of making spirituality living is to catch the avatar. There is a person who actually lived in history. His photograph was taken. We have numerous records of people who saw him and saw the extraordinary things which happened just the other day, just over 100 years ago. And other avatars are in their time. So from time to time, this extraordinary human being who is yet divine, who's not a spiritual person who through hard spiritual effort has become a saintly, those are there, of course. They have always been there. But extraordinary ones in every civilization, in every period of history, once in a while they appear. The avatar, the incarnation of God. India is particularly blessed to have plenty of avatars. Other places in the world, not so much. So one powerful way of making spirituality living is to catch hold of the avatar. Rama, Krishna, others also. Here, Ramakrishna for us, catch hold of the avatar. And then the next step to make this living is got as a technology called the Ishta. See, in this wide supermarket of spirituality, what will be your home tradition? What will be your personal practice? And in Hinduism, because of the tremendous, unending variety in Hinduism, so many traditions, so many methods, so many teachers, so many ways of being spiritual, we have also got what is called Ishta Devata. That is, Ishta means desired form. So you have to have one among all of that, knowing all of that to be true. All of that to be, you have a reverence for all of those ways, all of the forms, Shiva, Kali, Durga, Vishnu, all of it, Ganesha, all of it. But then one will be your special form on which you meditate, the special form, the special name on which you meditate. That is called your Ishta Devata. Usually the people keep it private. We had just had Diwali and Kali Puja. Sri Kali was Sri Ramakrishna's Ishta Devata. So what is the special form, name, form on which you meditate, to which you pray, is that form that's called Sri Ramakrishna. Ishta Devata. Then see how it becomes living. You know in which name you will call out to God. It's fixed for you already. You know in which form you can think of God, in which form you can have an icon, an image, a picture. Which are the mantras to be chanted? In which way will you perform ritualistic worship for God in that particular form? And now you know, like a person, actual living person sitting next to you, you can feel and visualize the living presence of God. And you can take it with you in your day-to-day life. You can live your life, the God in that form, in Kali or Shiva, is there watching over me, is the creator, preserver, destroyer of this entire universe, and I have taken refuge in him or her. Whatever my problems, I take to them like I would take to a trusted elder, a confidant. Whatever I have to say, I will say there. If I have to cry, I will cry there to the Lord. If I have to ask for blessings, I will ask there. All my work can be done as worship to the Ishta Devata. The puja that you do here is of course worship to the Devata. But also, the work that we do, you're driving a car, you're cooking a meal, you're going to the classroom and teaching, you are dealing with the clients and the customers in your business, whatever, dealing with the employees, whatever you do in life, it can be done as a worship of God and not abstract God, Ishta Devata. What are you doing? I am worshipping my Krishna, my Rama, my Kali, in whichever form. In distress, in joy, in panic, in boredom, whatever, whichever mood the Ishta Devata is a living form available to you. And as we cultivate it, it becomes a living presence in our life. Brother Lawrence, whose job was to cook. All he did was cook and manage a kitchen for a monastery, which is a big problem. Hundreds of people to be fed every day. So he would have to go out to the market and buy provisions and manage all the cooking and the cleaning and the serving. Lots of hard work. But all of it he said, this is in the presence of God. Beautiful book, Brother Lawrence on the practice of the presence of God. He says, I will make mistakes. Obviously, I am a poor human being. But only you, my Lord, in your presence, strengthened by you, I can do all this. Whatever you give me. I was reading Swami Turiyanandaji. In a letter, he writes, whatever happens here happens by the will of God and for our ultimate good. 1. 2. To take refuge, to surrender and take refuge, to take refuge in God is the goal of life. Goal of life. It doesn't say God realization, to take refuge in God is the goal of life. Only at the feet of the Lord is there peace, nowhere else. 3 sentences. Whatever happens in life, we may like it, not like it, we may believe it, not believe it, it happens by the will of God. And it is for our ultimate good. Maybe not right now. Second, to take refuge in God, in such a God. To surrender, take refuge. And this is a continuous process. Not that I've taken refuge. When did it? 25 years ago? No. Minute to minute. Everything in my life. Every challenge. You know what is that? There's a word for it, ringing true. Like sound, it rings true. The metal rings true. So every shock in life, every problem in life is like a knock given to us. We must ring true in reply. There is ringing true in reply. It's possible when the heart is at the feet of the Lord. You're holding on to the Lord. Then when we act from there, when we think from there, try to feel from there and speak from there. Living spirituality. When the living presence of God is felt, after some time, God becomes our companion. Living spirituality. All right. I have taken up all the time that I had. So I've given basically 2 talks in one. One is the first part of it, which was very philosophical, which is basically an intro, a segue into tomorrow's retreat. The other part is more from the heart, not so much from. Yeah. So shall we have question answers? Let me do a peace chant. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanastu. And happy Diwali. Tell us your name. Come up and queue up in front of this microphone. Tell us your name and ask the question. You can come up one after another. Tell us your name and ask the question.
Hi Swamiji, I'm Mohito, and Ramana Maharishi once said that one day you have to forget everything you've ever learned. So all this knowledge that we are acquiring, will it get in the way?
Yes and no. There are 2 kinds of knowledge. The Upanishad it is said. When the student goes and asks the Rishi, Sir, teach me that by knowing which everything can be known. The teacher says, knowledge is actually of 2 kinds. Dve vidye veditavye iti hasmayat brahma vido vadanti parachaiva paracha. The Rishi says to the student, we have learned this from the knowers of Brahman from ancient times, that there are 2 kinds of knowledge, the transcendent and the relative, the higher and the lower. And then he goes on to define whatever we call knowledge, the entire syllabus in the university. All of that is lower knowledge. That helps us in the world, but that will not help us to realize God. Vivekananda was a very well-read person, tremendously well, very scholarly, very well-read. And at one point he said, all of this which I've learned, all this so-called knowledge, I wish I could forget it all. So yes, in that sense, it does not help. It can be an obstacle. It can be an obstacle in more minor ways also. It can lead to egotism. I know so much. That can be an obstacle. I know so much. I learned, especially, for example, in India, all of these are areas of study. Vedanta, Nyaya, all of these philosophies whose goal is spiritual realization, but they're also areas of study. So I know I've read all the books, I know all the argument, I'm a master of Sanskrit, I read all this literature, but that's just ego. And ego is fattened by the more books you read, the more the ego becomes fat. I know all this. So that can be an obstacle. A more subtle obstacle could be we think of enlightenment, God realization as this kind of knowledge. I've read, I've thought about it, I've got it, I've understood it. Understanding something and realization are not the same. Not the same. When Master Mahashaya, who wrote the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, who listened to Sri Ramakrishna's teachings and then write down in the diary and later became the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. In the initial days, when the first time he visited Sri Ramakrishna, so he was asking that the Paramahamsa, Sri Ramakrishna, does he live here? Yes. Does he have a lot of books? The maidservant who was working there, she said, books? For goodness me, no. It's he speaks, it's all on his tongue. It's literally the words she used. It's not from books. I think one of the reasons why Sri Ramakrishna was like that, almost, he was not illiterate, he knew how to read and write, but almost so. He did not give much stock on books. He would have books being read out to him and all of that. But maybe to demonstrate that genuine, full-blown spirituality. Who was more spiritual than Sri Ramakrishna? I mean, it's an incredible example in the entire history of spirituality across the world. And yet not book learning. Maybe sort of deliberately to show that it doesn't come from books. There's a beautiful saying, do your words come from more words or they come from silence? Silence here means a meditative silence from which the words are coming. Or are they coming from more words? Having read all these books and then you're taking and giving us that. Mostly words come from more words. ChatGPT, what is it? It is text completion algorithm software, which takes words and makes more words out of it. It's a horrible oversimplification, but that's what it does. The great philosopher Schopenhauer, he said, distinguishing between the academic philosopher and the real philosopher. He says the real philosopher looks at the world and is puzzled by it, is wonderstruck by it, wonderstruck by it. And the academic philosopher is puzzled by his books. There's a difference. Yeah. So again, one is a living kind of knowledge, the other one is, I won't say dead, but second-hand knowledge. So this is why the real words that our knowledge may not be useful for enlightenment. However, on the other hand, it is useful. It is useful. Notice, Sri Ramakrishna did not spend time buying and reading books. But most of his disciples were highly learned people and encouraged it. So, why? How does it help? I remember I was a young novice once, long ago, and this very senior Swami, very elderly Swami, he said, I asked him, he was asking what is your degree, what have you completed educationally? I was a youngster, I've just become a monk. Then I asked him, Swami, why do you ask about people's educational qualifications? You know, what is it? What connection does it have to being a monk and a spiritual seeker? Then he said in Bengali, and translate, he says, Nago, ete buddhi marjita. No, your marjita means refined. So your intellect, your mind becomes refined thereby. So the exercise of our intellect, it sharpens the mind and its intellectual capacities, and that is useful when suppose you do Vedanta Vichara, inquiry into who am I. It requires a subtle and sharpened and purified mind. So knowledge helps. Look at Vivekananda, look at many others, Avedananda, they are vastly well-read people. So the result is confusion. So does it help or not? Well, you are well-educated, well-read, good for you. That's far better than being ignorant and not reading, not knowing. But that is not, also one must be very careful that that is not spirituality in itself. Realization is beyond that.
Happy Diwali.
Happy Diwali.
That you hadn't stopped the line. I'm going to just take a minute because this is 10 years to me reading Power of Now.
Tell us your name.
I'm Nilesh.
Okay.
And watching your IIT Kanpur video on Who Am I.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, like you just mentioned, Roy God's, helping me to understand the power of now by Kurt Cole with your lecture on Who Am I. And now my question is, again, I'm reading the Sadhak Sanjivani by Ram Siddharthi. And one of the things about living reality is the Aham Brahmasmi versus Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. And the Sattvic ego and how we practice. And I've heard and maybe misunderstood that those two are very similar. But I feel like for practice,
those two means Aham Brahmasmi versus Sarvam Khalvidam.
Right.
Brahma.
And how what they mean in practice. And from what I'm doing right now, it feels to me that Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma is helping to dilute my sattvic ego or whatever that might be more than Aham Brahmasmi. And I just wanted a clarification.
What do you mean by dilute the sattvic ego?
By accepting the Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma paradigm more than the Aham Brahmasmi or focusing on it is helping me. And I don't know if there is any truth, but I wanted to get a sense of that.
Yes. So the two sentences which you use, they are Vedantic teachings. One is Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. So there are these sentences in the Upanishads which are called Mahavakyas, great or profound sentences, which sort of sum up the entire teaching of Vedanta. Most famously, Tattvamasi, you are that. Equivalent to that is Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. The teacher will teach you Tattvamasi, you are that. The student should not say you are that, and endlessly it will go back and forth. The student should say I am Brahman, should realize I am Brahman. And it should be honestly claiming that you see it as a fact. Right now, it's a great idea for us, maybe, but we should see it as a fact. Now, also, Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. And what about all this? I am Brahman, fine. But what about this world? What about other people? What about non-living things? The stars and planets and dust? What about all of that? All of that is Brahman. So I am Brahman, all of that is Brahman. In fact, Brahman is the only reality without a second. There is no second reality apart from Brahman. If anything is, it must be Brahman. And that is the ultimate teaching of Vedanta. To reach there, one must first start with oneself. One must realize what one truly is. Not just as an affirmation, not just as a saying I am Brahman. One must actually see that I am Brahman. Then you look back upon the world and you see that it is all Brahman, one reality alone. Sri Ramakrishna's famous example of the man who was climbing in a house. He left behind the ground floor, the first floor, and the staircase, and went to the roof. When he reached the roof, he found that what the roof was made of, the same cement and mortar and bricks, what he had left behind, the staircase and the first floor and second floor, they're all made of the same. In fact, the whole house is made of the same. Similarly, he says, when one goes through the process of not this, who am I? What am I? I'm clearly not the word. And then, not the body, not the mind. We'll see all that tomorrow. And then you'll realize. You carry, remember, when you do that process tomorrow, carry with you the sense of, this is the nose. So that it keep it real, as Americans would say. Keep it real. And then you realize, you will actually begin to get an intuition of what is meant by I am Brahman or I am pure consciousness. But then all of this you left behind, this world, this body. What is all this? This is also Brahman. Brahman alone appears as all of this. This has to be realized also. Swami Vivekananda put it very precisely. What is Vedanta? Two things. The divinity of the soul and the oneness of all existence. That you are the divine reality. And the whole universe is one with you. It's one divine reality. These two. The first one is Aham Brahmasmi. The second one is Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. The emphasis on the Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma, that all of this is indeed Brahman. The one divinity permeates everything. This is very good. It is the basis of all morality. That's the way to dilute the ego, as you said. The entire teaching of Vedanta, if you put these two together, Aham Brahmasmi and Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma, I am Brahman and everything indeed is Brahman, put them together, there's another term, Sarvatma Bhava. I am the self of all beings. Everything is one with me. I am one with everybody. To see the self in all beings and to see all beings in the self, in yourself. Yes. So this is a very good culmination.
Hello, Swami. I'm Jack. I listen to you most every day, and I get a lot out of it. But I'm hungry to get as much out of it as what you say as I can. And you said, if I understand you correctly, that to listen thoroughly, you must listen. Then I think something like contemplate it
Yes.
with your mind. And the third step is to meditate.
Yes.
And that is a mystery. What do you mean by that? Because when I meditate, if I breathe, keep my mind on my breath. If I say my mantra, it gives my mind something to do, so I can have silence.
Yes.
But I think you may have answered the question. The first question you answered, you said silence is important. Is that the point?
All right. No, but it's a good point you've raised. First of all, the process in Vedanta, what do we do? It's important to know. When you say puja, we know what's done in a puja. We know. We can see it. There are rituals in every religion. If you say prayer, we know what to do. We have, you sit in a particular way and you get into a particular emotional state and you pray to a deity, and you ask or you pray or you surrender. Even meditation, we know. It could be a mindfulness meditation, it could be following the breath, it could be focusing in the heart center or one of the chakras and visualizing something. It's basically attention given to something, holding on to that attention. That's meditation. But what is the method in Vedanta? The non-dual Vedanta we are talking about. What's the method? What do you do there? 3 things. Hearing, reasoning, meditation. Shravana, Manana and Nididhyasana. And let's understand this on the model of something as simple as going to class and understanding something subtle and difficult. What do you do? What do we do in class? When you go to UT Dallas, first of all, you go to class. You turn up for class. You pay attention to what the professor is saying. You read the handouts and the textbooks and the reading suggested. So that's the hearing part. Hearing is not just listening here, systematically studying a body of knowledge with the help of the teacher and the text and everything. Teacher is important, especially in something so subtle as this. And then, second, after I have got all that knowledge, I've got all that information, I must ask myself, now I know what the book says, what the teacher says, but do I get it? Aren't there many questions? There definitely will be questions. And these are intellectual questions. These are questions, I don't get it. What does this mean? How does this square with that one? So all these questions we raise and we try to answer these questions. Just like you would do in class. You could ask the professor, you could ask other students, you'd like to search on the net and find out the answers. Whatever it is, at the end of that second process, the second process is called reasoning. At the end of the second process, we must come to the conclusion, not only I have read the stuff, I've done the readings, I've heard your talks, but now I get it. Until I get it, one must keep on the thinking. It has 2 parts. One is, attention is very important. A lot of attention is required in this. It's very subtle. That's why it requires more attention. Second, it also requires us to think about it, consciously process it. Just like any difficult problem in mathematics, think through it. Once I get reasonably, I've understood it, I've understood something about myself. But myself, I'm continuously present. To meditate on this new insight into myself is to stay with it. Keep my attention there. That is Vedantic meditation. In Sanskrit, it's called Nididhyasana. It's not following the breath. It's not focusing on silence. It's not repeating a mantra. This is, I have discovered something real, I stay with it. So that is Vedantic meditation. We'll talk more about it tomorrow. There are many techniques about that. Of Vedantic meditation. You will find 6 techniques in the text called Drigdrishya Viveka. You'll find 15 techniques in the text called Aparokshanubhuti. But once you see 1 or 2 of those techniques, you get the hang of it. You can generate your own techniques also. Basically, it's nothing other than I know what the teaching is, I understand what the teaching is, and what they're talking is continuously available to me. Like Jyotindra is available here. Now I know. Now stay with it. Stay with that reality about yourself, which it's quite clear now. That staying is not easy. That staying is meditation. Until you can say, look, Jack is a living reality for me, doesn't require meditation. I don't have to do Jack meditation in the morning and Jack meditation in the evening. You don't have to do it. It's effortless. Although it's a name actually given to you. It's become effortless now. Similarly, that I am this witness consciousness. I'm not the body, I'm not the mind. I'm the luminosity, the awareness in which world, body, mind are appearing. This shift, to make it a living reality, we need a process of meditation for some time at least. Afterwards, it will become effortless. Then you don't need to meditate upon it.
Thank you. You made a living reality for me.
Tell us your name and ask the question.
I'm Raj. So you touched on 2 aspects. One is the Vedanta aspect. Then you also talked about bhakti, Ishtadaiva. So my question to you is there an inherent conflict between what you said about non-dual Vedanta as opposed to the bhakti tradition, the Ishtadaiva? When the Ishtadaiva becomes an object and therefore it is false, which is what the Vedanta, non-dual Vedanta is trying to say. So are you then saying that yes, Vedanta is good and that's one path, and then you also need to keep your Ishtadaiva? So I see some inherent conflict in that, in both these things. So
Yes.
please clarify some of that for me.
It's a good question. And it's good that you brought it up because many people here, if not majority at least, many here are initiated. They have an Ishta Devata, you have a mantra, you've got a guru, as I am. So there seems to be an apparent contradiction. First of all, when you are worshipping God in whichever form, Ishta Devata will be one form of God. It seems straightforward duality. I am separate. And God is something I meditate upon, pray to, believe in, depend on, visualize, do puja, seva. All of that, it's possible only in duality. It's not non-dual, first. Second, even worse, as he said, Ishta Devata is an object. Just as all this is an object, the body is an object, even the mind is an object, Ishta Devata is something visualized in the mind. And that's an object. It's like a thought. It's like a visualization. It is a visualization. It's a belief. So objects are appearances. It's not Brahman as the ultimate reality. Kenopanishad says, Tadeva Brahmatvam vidhi nedam yadidam upasate. Realize that to be Brahman. The mind of the mind, the eye of the eye, the ear of the ear, pure consciousness. That is to be known as Brahman, not what you worship here as this. But the God we worship, we are worshipping as this. All right. The answer, straight answer, comes from Sri Ramakrishna. This any serious spiritual practitioner who is a non-dual Vedantin at the same time has mantra and Ishta Devata, which by the way, traditional Vedantis almost all have. In Uttarakhand also I've seen in Himalayas. Full-fledged Vedantins, but they also have either Shiva or some kind of Ishta Devata and they regularly practice Upasana, worship also. There is no contradiction. See, this is the marvelous technology of the Ishta Devata. Sri Ramakrishna's answer to this question, direct answer, in Bengali, Jejar Ishto Shetaratma. Whoever is your Ishta Devata, that is the Atman. The Atman spoken about in Advaita Vedanta. You have clothed it up in name and form. Ultimately, it's not an object. It's you yourself. It's your own higher reality, your own reality as Satchidananda. I am Satchidananda. So is the Ishta Devata. But I don't know my Satchidananda nature. What do I know myself as? Sarvapriyananda. this body, this mind, this personality, then easier for me to grasp that Satchidananda by covering it up with a divine name and form. All of these are names and forms of Satchidananda. But the worldly names and forms of Satchidananda will keep me in the world. They will not free me from the world. But the divine names and forms, this is the technology of the Ishtadevata, of the Hindu mode of worship. That these are divine names and forms, they do not obstruct your access to Satchidananda. If you worship, your mind will be purified, mind will be focused, ultimately ignorance will be removed. It is well known among the bhaktas that the self-knowledge that I am Brahman, your Ishtadevata can give you that self-knowledge. Even without too much effort in Vedanta, if you focus on the japa and dhyana, this is something I will not tell you tomorrow, today I am telling. If you focus on the japa and dhyana and devotion of worship of Ishtadevata, at one point, the Vedantic knowledge, without much seeking on your part, it can come to you. I know it for a fact. I know people who become enlightened and realize that they are the Atman, pure consciousness. But they were not seeking that. They were meditating and repeating the mantra given by the Guru. It would have been reasonable to expect that they will have a vision, a darshan, vision of the Ishtadevata. Instead of that, they got the Advaita knowledge. Who knows? And even if that does not happen, you first have the Savikalpa Samadhi, where you have living experience of the form of the Ishtadevata. Then that goes into Nirvikalpa Samadhi, and that can result in the Advaitic, the Brahmakara Vritti also, the realization that I am Brahman. That can also come, that way also. So, this is in Sanatana Dharma, in Hinduism, there are always elements of bhakti and jnana and yoga and karma. There will be some ritual, you can expand that ritualistic karma to seva also in the world. There will be some meditation. It could be visualization of the form of the deity. It could be tantric chakra meditation. It could be, the Soham meditation of the Kashmiri Shaivites. It could be the Nididhyasana of Advaita Vedanta also. And there will always be an element of jnana. Now, in the different traditions in Hinduism, the mixture will be different. In Advaita Vedanta, it's purely jnana at the very top, and the others are supporting. The Karma Yoga purifies the mind, devotion and meditation focuses the mind. With that purified and focused mind, the teachings of the Upanishads and the Gita, they become effective, you realize you are Brahman. It's a good question. And the answer, I only can take away Sri Ramakrishna's answer, that whoever is your Ishtadevata, that is the Atma. We normally don't think so, because Ishtadevata seems to be an imagined object. Atman is I, me, myself. So, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yes. Can you stand up? Okay, you can get the mic to the gentleman. Please ask the question.
Swami, it is very beautiful to know that I am Brahman.
Yes.
It is beautiful to know that everything is Brahman. But then I always wonder why there's so much cruelty everywhere, including the animal world.
Why is there so much cruelty? This is what is called in religion the problem of evil. Any religion will have to give an answer to this. Every religion will say ultimately there is some perfection. If you say God is that perfection, then the question will be, why does God permit all this? Is it a bad God, evil God, cruel God? If you don't say God, like a Buddhist will say, no, there is no God. What will the Buddhist say to answer this? Buddhist will say, this is the very nature of the world. Anityam, anityam, sarvam anityam. Impermanent, impermanent, indeed all is impermanent. Kshanikam, kshanikam, sarvam kshanikam. Not only impermanent, momentary. Moment to moment it's changing. Not only momentary. Shunyam, shunyam, sarvam shunyam. Empty, empty, indeed all is empty. And therefore, dukkham, dukkham, sarvam dukkham. When this impermanent, momentary and empty appearance, we try to take it as real and try to make our home here, we are bound to suffer. But there is a reality beyond this, which is nirvana. If you realize that, you'll be free of suffering. There is the teaching of Buddhism. Similarly, every religion will say that the nature of the word is like this, but if you realize God, in whatever language these religions, you will go beyond the suffering. But why is it like that? There are many, many answers. Many, many answers. One answer is, this is the best of all possible worlds. Any other type of world, if you make it, will be worse than this. One person might say, I don't believe that. This a better world is possible. There is human evil and there is natural evil. The human evil is you can have war, you can have cruelty, you can have crime, you can have abuse. This is human evil. This can be avoided. This can be avoided. But then there is natural evil which cannot be avoided. Volcano explodes. Or even something like lion jumps on the prey, the deer eats it. Deer suffers terribly when it's torn apart. In Central Park I saw recently, there was this two little squirrels were playing. And then this magnificent hawk swooped down, grabbed one of the squirrels in its talons and flew away with it. And sat on the tree and tore it apart. And the other squirrel, you see, squirrel, we might think it's a squirrel brain. Clearly it was suffering. In distress, running around. What happened to its friend? Now you see the magnificent power and the grace of the hawk. You also see the actual clear suffering of the little squirrel. The one which was killed and the one which is, can we call it an emotional suffering? Yes, it's missing its friend. See the distress in the little squirrel. This is natural evil. It cannot be avoided. If you have nature, this evil will be there. If the eater and the eaten, this nature, this will be there. Then there is old age, disease, death. Sri Krishna, we will see tomorrow. Sri Krishna will say, sign of knowledge. Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha dosha anudarshana. Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dosha dukkha anudarshana. So, to see that old age is sorrow, to see that disease is sorrow, to see that death is sorrow, and birth as the cause of all of them is also sorrow. This is the sign of of knowledge. Knowledge begins here by this insight. Why? Why is this there? This can be a long question. We can put it in a very philosophical form. In the philosophical form, the question will be, why did the one non-dual Brahman appear as the dualistic universe? Why did it become all this suffering? And the Vedantin will answer, it did not become, it is Maya, it is looking like this. Then also you can ask, why is it looking? You can ask, why Maya? Brahman could have been alone. Why Maya? Somerset Maugham, English novelist, he actually went to India, he met Ramana Maharshi. And he knew quite a bit about Vedanta. In some of his essays you will find. So he sees Brahman creates this universe. He writes in his very dry British humor that one feels, looking at the sufferings in the world, one feels that Brahman could have left well enough alone. Why? You say, no, the world was not created, it's an appearance. This is the Advaitic answer, Maya. You can ask, why Maya? Then the Advaitin will say, I'm trying to answer your question at a philosophical level. The Advaitin will say the question is wrong at that level. Why is the question wrong? You can ask, why? Why is the question? This question seems to be a good question. Why is it wrong? Now you see, what is Maya itself? Maya is space, time, causality. Causality means why. What is causality? You ask why and you want an answer. See an effect, you want a cause. You see a difficult universe, so many problems, you want a cause. This is causality. But this causality is part of Maya. You cannot ask it's like asking why. Why is there causality? If you ask, it's like asking why. There's no answer for that. It's like time-space causality. It's like asking what was there before time. But if you ask what's there before time, you've already accepted time. Before is a time word. Before and after are time words. You've already accepted time, then only you can talk about before and after. Time itself you cannot ask before time. Space. If you ask, what is outside space? You can't ask that question. Outside and inside are space questions. When you say outside space, inside space, you already accepted space. If you ask, Why is there Maya? You have already accepted Maya. From outside Maya, again see outside. To ask why there is Maya, you can't do it. Outside, inside, before, after, why Maya, these are all within Maya. Brahman, that's why Brahman, the Advaitic idea is Brahman is not causally linked. It is beyond cause and effect. In Sanskrit, they say Karya Karana Vilakshana Brahman. Something apart from cause and effect. Brahman only nominally is called the cause of this universe, but actually is beyond causality. Vivekananda says good, good, bad, bad, and none escape the law. Whosoever wears a form wears the chain too. Form means body. If you have a body, I have prarabdha karma, past karma, which will give results here. Then what does Vedanta do? If none escape the law, then what will Vedanta do? Far beyond name and form is Atman ever free. No, thou art that sannyasi bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. It is that introduction to Jyotindra. That's what Vedanta does. You are this. You have to know that. That perspective, you will see freedom. So, two-part answer to your question. One is, confronted with suffering, what does Vedanta say? First answer to suffering is help. Service. The answer to your question, why is there so much suffering in the world? What is the answer? I always say the best answer to this question is on my desk in New York Vedanta Society. One annual report of the Ramakrishna Math and Mission is there. How many thousands and hundreds of thousands of patients are treated at different dispensaries and hospitals? How many hundreds of thousands of boys and girls study in different schools, the Ramakrishna order? How many, relief activities are carried on in terms of earthquake or floods or what? This is response to suffering. So this is our first response should be this. So much suffering in the world. Now what does Vedanta do? Respond with help. Okay. After this also you will see not much difference is made. All of them have come. And all the great masters, Buddha, Jesus, all have come and gone. Has the suffering in the world gone away? That means Vedanta cannot remove the suffering of the world in general, but it can remove those who want to go beyond suffering, they can. Not just Vedanta, every spiritual path can do that. Buddhism also, all of the paths, they say that what it does is, it personally for you, you can rise above the suffering. And at the same time, you can help mitigate, alleviate the sufferings of others. That way the Buddhists are right. The world itself, the nature of the world itself is such that it's inevitable. If we are in ignorance, if we think of ourselves as this body-mind, we're bound to suffer. Anybody who's identified, any sentient being identified with a body-mind is bound to suffer. We have to do the operation of cutting ourselves, this separation between you and the body-mind. That operation we will do tomorrow. We should wrap up now. Time.